Well, welcome. I'm glad to see you too. I always love these shareholder meetings. I mean, I tell people like, doing the shareholder meeting, and it's like, man, it always feels like a party, and I love seeing you guys, and it's like, and they're like, really? That's not like normal shareholder meetings. I'm going to go through the kind of a high-level overview. I think it's been a really great year for Tesla, and I think there's even better years to come. And so I'm going to talk about that, and then try to answer. I think there's 20 questions that we have on the list that were submitted by Twitter. There's certainly some really interesting questions that were submitted, and some interesting correlations that were drawn. We couldn't get to them all, but we'll try to get to, I think, the 20 that I think are most significant for the year ahead of us. So really, one of the key things that happened this year is the beginning of the transition of Tesla to a fully integrated sustainable energy company, where you have solar creating the energy, then the stationary battery pack, the Powerwall and Power Pack storing the energy, and then that energy being used in an electric vehicle. Now, the great thing about this is it answers all. It's a fully contained energy solution that could scale for the whole world. And I'm going to get into that for a moment. But it's something where you can imagine, as far in the future, well beyond human civilization, which I hope lasts a really long time, that this is something that would last for really, this works, and I think there are no unanswered questions. Even the gigafactory or the gigafactories that make these products will be powered by sustainable energy. So, like, I really don't think there's any hole left in the argument. Because when we're making electric cars, people would say that, well, they're really coal-powered, and there's like the long tailpipe, and the type tailpipe's really over there by the power plant. And we're like, yeah, but we're going to have sustainable energy generation too, but then you can still have gasoline cars. So you got to have electric cars, sustainable energy production, and then you got to store that energy because the sun don't shine at night. Real simple. 1, 2, 3. It's been amazingly difficult to explain this. I'm like, it's only 3 pictures there, man. I mean, come on. So, with the solar roof, the solar roof we're really trying to address at the residential level, I think one of the fundamental inhibitions of adding solar, which is aesthetics. People love their homes. They want their homes to be beautiful. And if you've got a sloped roof home, that means you have to have solar integrated into the roof itself. And so what we created here, I think, is something that's going to be incredibly revolutionary, where it's beautiful. In fact, I think it looks better than a normal roof. In doing this, we were trying to find examples of roofs, and it's like, man, take a look at roofs next time you're driving down the road, and you're like, whoa, they're not good. So this is a roof that's going to be better looking than a normal roof. It's going to last practically forever. Like, I wanted to have an infinite year warranty, but then the finance department said, well, that's difficult to account for. So I said, well, okay, it's infinite or when your house falls down, whichever comes first. You'll get the message across. But basically, it's going to last forever. You think of like a cathedral with stained glass windows. Those stained glass windows are about the only thing, and the stone walls, the only thing that's lasted over half a millennium. So great looking, durable, affordable when you consider the cost of a roof and the cost of electricity from the utility. And this is going to vary quite a lot by region. So it depends on what property taxes are, what the cost of financing is, and what the cost of power from the utility is. We're confident that this is going to be something that is either actually makes you money or is close to break even for most of the country, which I think is really, really profound. Now, there's still a very important role for the traditional kind of flat panel solar. And so that's still going to be a very important part of our business going forward. Because whenever you've got a flat roof situation, which is most commercial installations are flat roofs, and or if you've got a residence that's got a flat roof and it's not visible from the street, then there's no need to go with solar glass tiles because aesthetics are no longer a factor. You can't see it. So I just want to emphasize that traditional solar is still going to be a very important part of the business going forward. Also, if somebody's got a brand new roof, that they probably don't want to replace the roof right away, and it's still going to make sense to have retrofit solar. And these are what you're seeing cycling through are the kind of the first four, and we're starting off with two, which is the kind of the black slate and the textured slate, and then hopefully by early next year we'll be in production with the Spanish tile and the French slate versions, and then will be more over time. But the overarching goal here is to have a set of products or a set of roof products where if you were driving through a neighborhood and you looked at the roofs, you said, like, "Wow, I really like the way those roofs look." Roofs don't get a lot of attention, but we want something. We want to create. It's like if you can imagine the future. And what it looks like, that's something that you want. Then obviously that needs to be paired with stationary storage with a battery pack. The battery packs are important for a number of reasons, and because the solar power obviously peaks during the middle of the day, and then it's low at dawn and dusk, and it's not there at night. So you need something that is load leveling the power, so it's storing it when there's high power generation, releasing it when you have low power generation, and this is going to be important for grid stability as solar scales. So as there's more and more solar, it's more and more critically important that there be batteries to load level the grid and enable a full transition to sustainable energy. And then it has a great advantage, which I think it's the kind of thing where you only really notice it when the power's out. Like there are frequent power outages because a substation went down or a bird flew into wires, or in many parts of the world, power is intermittent and they have to have generators which run on very expensive diesel fuel. But even here in California, we know we're due for the big one. That it's been saving up. So there's going to be earthquakes in California. There'll be hurricanes in the southeast. There'll be ice storms in the northeast. There's floods. There's all sorts of things that cause electricity interruption, and we're very dependent on electronic devices. So people might say, "Well, it's not a problem. I'll call 911." Well, how are you going to do that if your phone is dead? Okay, that's real hard. And if all your devices are gone because of a power outage, we're so dependent on devices these days that it's actually a significant safety and security concern. So the nice thing about having the Powerwall, particularly the Powerwall 2, is that it's like having an uninterruptible power supply for your house. And like I said, it's like buying insurance. So it's sort of like the kind of thing that when you need it, you really need it. And so I think that's an important advantage that is sometimes overlooked. And then we've got the power pack side. This is for big utility scale installations, as well as, I should point out, a very important market, which is commercial and industrial. So we've done some of the biggest, in fact, I think the biggest, still the biggest battery installation in the world in Southern California. And that took over from what was a natural gas peaker. And that's in operation, it's doing well. We've got a huge system in Hawaii, which is responsible for 20% of Kauai's peak power generation. And then we've got a system in American Samoa which powers the whole island. It's totally off-grid. And I think that's a great example of of the potential, because in the limit, a continent is a big island. Okay, it's this big island, but it's called a continent. If you take an island and have that completely run on solar and batteries, you can do that with a continent. So the potential there, I think, is incredibly exciting. We've also now, with the latest version of the phone app, integrated the Powerwall and solar with the Tesla app. So now you can see on your, in terms of list of products, so it no longer says just vehicles, it says products. So now you can see the Powerwall is on there, and solar. So you can see the status of your Powerwall. You can see whether your solar system is functioning well, how much energy you're producing. It'll show you how much energy you're producing, how much is being stored, how much is being consumed, and then how that relates to the car. And so you have a really well-integrated system that combines solar, storage, and your vehicle. And I think there'll be a few other things in the future that maybe people aren't expecting as well. So you can see your energy usage during the day, so you can tell if maybe you should be turning off certain devices or reprogramming your air conditioning system, and it gives you a good idea of where you're using power that you may not even realize that you're using. And if you are drawing energy from the grid, it'll tell you how much energy you drew from the grid and how much you powered yourself. So I think and this functionality is just going to get better and better. This is what's working today. So this is not speculative. This is the current app that does this. From the standpoint of the customer experience, we're going to make a significant increase in the number of retail stores we have around the world. We think we've really barely touched the surface of what's possible on the retail side. If you just do a back-of-the-envelope analysis and say, in the US, there's about 330 million people. How many stores per person should we have, or how many people per store? It seems like probably over time we'd want at least one store for every 500,000 people. So that's 660 stores right there. In China, it would be thousands of stores, or throughout the world, it would be several thousand stores. So that's, our plan is to keep expanding the retail store footprint to be able to cover anyone who could want to buy our product. Service has gotten better and better, so we now have fast lanes in service. So the wait times for service have gone down dramatically. It's obviously very important for the Model 3. We're also adding a lot more service centers in anticipation of Model 3 production. And this year, we will double the number of Tesla superchargers in the world. So we'll double one year over year. And I think next year, probably at least 50% increase, maybe double again next year. This gives you just a sense for how many superchargers there are in the world. It's worth noting this is actually the only high-speed charging network in the world. There isn't even a second one. I asked the head of our supercharger program, okay, well, what's the second best high-speed charging network in the world? And he said, well, there's this one place in the Netherlands, but I think it's only like 60 or 70 kilowatts, but there's only one of it. Okay, like, well, it usually doesn't work. Okay, all right.